we're talking about Evangelion 3.0 plus one, Thrice Upon a Time, the final definitive conclusion to Evangelion. We're not talking about the end of the anime. We're not talking about the end of Evangelion the movie. We're talking about 3.0 plus one. Not to be confused with 4.0, which doesn't exist. Anyways,
this movie sucks ass. Fuck this movie.
Nico's a fucking bigot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyways, this movie starts off with a recap of the last three movies because there was a 12-year gap between 3.0 and 3.0 plus one. So I think
there is
12 years. Yeah, no, 3.0.
I thought it was only
20.
Oh, you mean in real life?
Oh wait, no, it's a 9. It's a 9-year gap, actually. I lied. Sorry, it's a 9-year gap. Yeah, 3.0 was in 2012, and this movie is a 2021 movie. So it was a 9-year gap. But yeah, no, there's a 14-year gap between 2.0 and 3.0. But yeah, I'm not talking about that. Basically, we just start off exactly where 3.0 ends, where we've got Shinji, Asuka, and fucking Rei, Ayanami, I guess is what they end up calling her, walking towards the village to go get rescued, basically, after the events of the third movie. And then it gets to, like, half of the movie basically taking place in this village where people are kind of just, like, living their lives there. Expands the lore of the universe a shit ton, describing, like, you know, how they're... I just realized I completely missed the opening segment where they're literally in fucking Paris, like, decorizing Paris. Mm-hmm. And they're, like, fighting. I totally forgot about that part. Yeah, no, the movie actually starts off with them decorizing Paris. And they're defending themselves from, like, these autonomous, like, mass-produced Avas who are trying to stop them from decorizing Paris.
What the fuck is corization?
Corization is basically they're, like, turning these people into, like, pure LCL or something. I think is the intention behind it. Like, they're just turning everything into, like, you know, core, which is, you know, like, all angels have cores. It's basically turning everything into that.
Okay.
That's what happened. That's what happened in the, not in the third movie, but the second movie, where they accidentally triggered the fucking... It didn't, like, fully complete, but they accidentally triggered the third impact, and that's what coreized the whole fucking world, and, like, basically the entire planet, and just, like, you know, wiped off everybody from the face of the earth. Or not wipe them off, but turn them into cores. So we're seeing that shit happen. They do, in fact, end up decorizing Paris, and then it cuts to, you know, our three protagonists in the village, and then there's, like, the long segment of them being in the village doing their, like, daily life. Shinji is trying to recover from basically being traumatized about the fact that he almost killed fucking everyone again, because once again he got manipulated. But he finally comes to. Rei is actually the person that talks him out of it with her childlike innocence. He's the only person that can, like, really connect to her, connect to him. And eventually she fucking dies. She fucking turns into LCL in front of him and fucking dies. And that's kind of like the catalyst for him realizing that he needs to be, like, the change he wants to be. Shit's not going to last forever kind of thing. So he goes and rides the AAA Wonder with Misato and the crew, Mari and Asuka and all that shit. And they go off to fight the final battle to stop the fourth impact from happening that Nerve is trying to start for the Human Instrumentality Project. And then they do that. They go and fly to Ground Zero of the third impact. They attempt to stop it. They get thwarted by Nerve because they're playing checkers and Nerve's playing 4D chess. They get fucked on. There's a big fight with Mari and Asuka trying to stop this all from happening. They're trying to destroy the 13th angel. Asuka turns herself into an angel to attempt to stop that, which then kind of falls into Gendo's plan of using her as, like, a fucking vessel for Adam. This shit's really confusing, by the way. And then I'm not even going to attempt to talk about what the fuck happened with the Human Instrumentality Project, but basically that shit starts. Fucking Shinji goes into Unit 1 to stop Gendo, who's now in Unit 13. They go into, like, the fucking, not the reverse world. I can't remember what the name of it is.
Anti-universe?
Yeah, the anti-universe. And they go in there. Basically, humans can't comprehend what the fuck's going on in there. So their brain is basically just, like, placing them inside of, like, a bunch of different areas they used to know, which basically just, you know, comes down to them being in different famous Evangelion sets. They have, like, their final fight. Shinji finally convinces, with the help of, you know, Misato, you know, turning the AAA Wonder with their fucking, you know, tech magic into a fucking spear for him to use. He finally convinces Gendo of his viewpoint. Mostly, actually, because this is also, like, super long. I'm sorry this is going on for so long. But this is also because Gendo realized he couldn't find Yui when he was in there. That was the big reason why he wanted to go in there, because he wanted to find Yui, because she thought she was going to be in there. But she wasn't. He realizes that Yui was inside Shinji all along, which, like, totally... realizes that he's, like, been completely misguided in his efforts to do all of this stuff. He realizes Shinji's viewpoint. He kind of just gives up. Human Instrumentality Project gets completely wiped. Shinji is then basically like given the power to rewrite the universe, which he does. And then we go to Happy Land, where everything's back to normal. Angels and all that shit don't exist. He's now in a relationship with Mari.
Yeah, he's much more suave for no reason. Also,
it's because he's a fucking changed man now. He's a fucking chap. He's turned into what he didn't want his father couldn't be. And then the movie ends. So,
I have some questions.
Go on. I've watched a lot of stuff about this. I doubt I'm going to be able to answer your questions with the detail you want me to, but I'll try my best.
Jackson, why did they bring back so many pens?
Anyways.
So, am I correct in the following summary of sort of the overall plot of this? Gendo, prior to any events of the movie, loses his wife. Yes. He believes that the way to bring her back... So Gendo then, he causes the second impact and sets into motion all of these things where he is going to put into place the Human Instrumentality Project, where he basically sacrifices all of humanity, and he sacrifices these angels, which I believe he created as well, in order to try and...
He didn't create any of the angels, but he created the Avas. Then he didn't create the angels.
Where did the angels come from?
The angels are from the fucking seed of Adam. So basically, when Adam landed, all those seeds landed all over the place in various locations, and then they turned into angels as they grew up. That isn't explained at all in the movie. So, that's part of the anime, but...
Right. So Gendo is just kind of conveniently taking advantage of the existence of these things because he figured out that by killing them, he can gain access to the anti-universe where he thinks his wife is?
Correct.
Okay, so, like, the entire point of, like, the whole thing is he's trying to bring back his dead wife.
Yeah, so the whole
Wait. Actually, is she dead or is she missing? Because
sometimes it's unknown. I guess from the perspective of everybody else, she's most likely dead because she was basically fused with Unit 1, which is also kind of what happened with Rey in the second movie. But yeah, fucking Nerve is working with Seal to do the Human Instrumentality Project, because that's what Seal's end goal is, the Human Instrumentality Project. But Nerve isn't necessarily, trying to do that because Gendo's leading it, and Gendo's just using that as like a means to an end because all he wants to get is Yui back, so he's using Seal to do that. Go on.
I thought I was under the impression his wife kind of disappeared before any of the angel stuff happened.
No, she basically got like sucked into Unit 01 when they were trying to do like not plug suit testing, but like integrating them with like the Avas.
Oh.
Yeah, she was one of the researchers for Seal.
They never really establish in these movies that the Evas are like human angel hybrids, do they?
No.
Okay.
They assume you knew that already.
You can kind of infer it because you can see that they're very
Okay. So other questions I have. I feel like I will say I was less confused during this movie than the other ones, at the very least. I feel like they gave enough information that I was like, okay, I can kind of keep up. Like the fact that I was able to explain the Human Instrumentality Project roughly, that is a massive improvement from the last 3 movies.
Yes, sir. I'll also say, just before you go, is that the major plot of this movie is not necessarily supposed to be understood. This is, and in the end of the day, is basically just like a character drama where you're watching this person improve, and you're just like looking through the conclusion of all of these different arcs. All of like the space robot shit is not necessarily like the main point. It is almost entirely just a vehicle to propel these characters through, the metaphor of what they're trying to describe with their characters. Anyways, go on.
Whatever, that's stupid. So in the Battle of Paris, when those fake or those mock Evas show up or whatever,
Yeah, the mass production Evas.
Yeah, I forget who it is. It's either the Science Lady or Misato. They say, oh, making those is a violation of the Vatican Treaty. Huh? What? There's some kind of treaty, presumably between Nerve and Villa, about what kind of weapons they can make? Huh?
I guess so. I can't remember this part you're talking about, so I don't really have an answer to this one.
I do remember the part he's talking about. I don't know what it means either, though.
Okay. Why did Rey explode?
Why did Rey explode?
Yeah.
Because she couldn't be away from Nerve. She was like some fucking created thing. I'm also not super 100% sure on that, but I imagine it's just because she kind of has to, like, when she was, in Nerve HQ, she was constantly doing those, like, baths and stuff. I imagine she probably she has, like, a fucking battery, basically, she has to recharge there. And she wasn't in there for long enough, that's why the beeping was happening. That's why she, like, shut down that one day. And she fucking exploded eventually because she just couldn't, take it.
Where the fuck are all these Evas coming from? As far as we can tell, Nerve is 2 people. How are they making these things?
That's a great question. We don't know. It's unknown.
Okay, and a lot of the enemies we see...
They made some Evas, Tanner, so that those Evas can make more Evas for them.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So a lot of the Evas we see Villa fight, they seem to be like angel robots or something. Is that correct?
What part are you talking about?
Like a lot of those weird creatures that Nerve sends at the Wundar. They seem to be like some weird combination of angels and like machinery.
Like the type of one where there's like the one that was trying to integrate with the Wonder.
Nah, more like the cannon fodder stuff that they're fighting.
The cannon fodder stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think those are just like straight up just mass-produced Evas, like the ones we saw at the start of the movie.
Well, see, they use both the words mock Evas as well as mock angels at different points in this movie. So, like I think from the third movie onwards, there are no more angels except ones that like kind of artificially get created by the humans.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
I mean, the mock angels, I think, are the ones. The 4 angels that were supposed to be connected to like those ships, those are like the 4 like actual angels because those have like the fucking soul of Adam inside them or some shit, and they're like the piece that was supposed to attempt to start the fucking 4th impact with. But yeah, those ones are like actual like mock angels, like they literally have like angel inside of them. I think all the other like cannon fodder were just like mass-produced Evas. Right.
So every single one of the pilots, aka the children, they're like manufactured people.
Not necessarily. I don't think Shinji definitely isn't, at least, and we don't know anything about Mari, but yeah, Asuka and Rei definitely are.
Okay. So, how does Asuka turn herself into an angel? Why? Like, could she hypothetically have done that at any point, or was there something that happened in the time jump? She could have done it at any point. Well, if you remember from the second movie, where she got taken over by that angel when she went to the entry plug, she turned into an angel at that point, and they were able to recover her. And then you have like one of those little pylons which was inside her eye, and that was suppressing her like from the angel from taking over. So when she took that out, she turned into an angel. So they had that in her from the first part, which I think is actually cool because in the older movies, or the older series, I guess it was just in the end of Evangelion, she had her eye patch because she literally got fucking destroyed in the eye by getting like stabbed or some shit. But in this one, it's because she's got the suppressor inside of her to stop her from becoming an angel. But yeah, she could have done it any time, but she did it now because it was a big important part. Okay, and.
Okay, enough of Tanner's stupid questions for now. I'm going to actually talk about the movie here for a moment. This movie did the impossible, okay? And it actually made me like Rey as a character, which I thought was just like an insurmountable task prior to that. Because like in the actual anime and shit like that, she's really not much of a character at all, and she's more so just kind of like a vehicle to like, just like usher things along a little bit. She's like a sort of plot device more so. But here, she's actually like learning how to be a person and shit like that. That's crazy. I never expected such a thing from her, and I just really like that.
I agree. I think Rey was awesome in this movie. I think it's a really just good conclusion to her arc because it's pretty obvious throughout a lot of this that she like wants to be human or like understand things like that, and I think she finally got it when she lived in that village for that short period of time, which I'm a big fan of. And then she's also the one that helps Shinji finally get over like that last lump that he needed to finally, you know, push and challenge his father. I think it's a very good end to her character. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, and also just like some of the technology that they're showing off here is crazy. Like in the fight scenes, one of the big things I'm talking about here is the fucking battleships that they use, okay?
Yeah.
Like they use battleships to like serve as a shield to like block lasers, and like later near the end of the movie, they're using battleships as little fucking missiles to just like bomb this place.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. I think it's insane that they're able to do all of this insane, like, mechanical feast after, like, 90% of the world's been turned to cores and most
Right?
of the population's gone. It's crazy, man. You know that human will is indomitable. What can I say? But yeah, that was pretty goofy with the fucking battleships on strings.
Shit. However, a pretty big detractor here for me that cropped up quite a bit throughout the film is that they really overdo it with the CGI throughout this one.
Absolutely.
Like, there are moments where it looks fine and serviceable, but there are other parts where it's just like, oh, that's a little egregious, and I wasn't a big fan of it.
Yeah, this movie did... I'm not giving this movie a pass at all for this. I'm just giving some more context. But this movie went through absolute development hell. Because like with the first series... the whole reason that was like the way it is because the original creator, Hideki Anno, was going through some absolute fucking terrible parts in his life. And he went through something very similar during the production cycle of this movie, which is why it took so fucking long to come out, because it was just in development hell for a really long time. And I'm sure they use CG a lot just because, you know, it's really hard to, like... They were, like, constantly rewriting stuff, and I'm sure they're using CG just because it was a lot cheaper than having to, like, reanimate all this shit over and over again. But yeah, they definitely overuse CG a ton in this movie. It is constant. It's everywhere. Maybe there's some moments where they're trying to do it because it's supposed to look uncanny, like with the floating bodies everywhere. It's supposed to look like some, like, crazy out-of-this-world shit. But I don't know.
Like the big old Ray face.
The big Ray face I get. That's the whole point of that. It's supposed to look like some otherworldly, uncanny shit. Because that's kind of what they did in the first one, too.
Was that Ray's face, or was it Yui?
I interpreted it as Ray's face.
Yeah, I did, too.
Why would it be
could
Ray,
have been though?
I mean, Ray's face is the one that we saw all throughout the rest of the movie with, like, the bleeding eyes and stuff. In, like, the third and second movie.
They also have the same face, basically, so I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, the whole point of Ray is supposed to be a copy of Yui anyways. Yeah. So it really could be interpreted either way. But yeah, tons of CG, and it looked pretty rough throughout a lot of it. But, you know, fucking, how the fuck are you supposed to do that 2D animation without, you know, having, like, a massive budget? But, you know, whatever.
I would like if Asuka was in it a little more, but outside of that, that's about all I have to say. So you can continue with your bullshit, Tanner.
No, that was actually my last question when you decided to interrupt me.
Oh, okay.
What are your overall thoughts then?
Yeah, because you didn't really have much to say about the movie itself.
Right. You know, I think otherwise it's pretty good. I agree. I like the world building stuff where we get to see what's actually going on in the world with that sort of shit. I like the character development. I like that I can actually understand what sort of the end goal is of everyone and why. And I thought the action was pretty fun and engaging and cool. And I thought specifically the scene with Mari and Asuka fighting their way down to the Nerve HQ or whatever, that looked cool as fuck. And also Asuka's Eva, where they have all the robot parts on it that aren't Eva, and it had to, when she went Angel, it had to like crawl out of that shit. That was cool as fuck.
That was fucking awesome.
Really nice.
But yeah,
Tanner, did you watch this in English as well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll say something about the Japanese dub. The dub, or not the dub, I guess. The original audio was really fucking good in this movie. I think the voice acting was really solid throughout a lot of it, especially in that part you were just talking about, where Asuka's tried to like fight her way down to the 13th Angel. She sounded genuinely so fucking desperate throughout the whole part. It was insanely convincing. I think the performances they did were really, really well done. Like, it legitimately sounded like there was some fucking chick fighting for her goddamn life to save the world. And I don't really know how to like express that in words, but like, she just did an insanely good job. And there was just really solid voice acting throughout the entire movie. Everybody seemed, I don't know, it was just super spot on throughout the entirety of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the dub did a pretty solid job as well. But there was like one character who was really rough in the dub. It was, I think it was like the fucking Dr. Dude's wife back in the village, she just sounded so fucking wooden, and like she just had zero direction given to her whatsoever during the whole process. So like all of her lines were just like, "Oh, hi Ray, I see that you woke up," just shit like that.
That's really unfortunate. She was really good in the Japanese, and I think that really sells her, like, not adoration, but, you know, kind of looking at Ray like a child.
Yeah.
Like her child. And I think she really sold it pretty well. I think I definitely would have liked that whole experience a lot less if she sounded fucking just completely monotone throughout most of it.
Yeah. So it was a little bit rough. But outside of that, I thought it was pretty good.
That's good.
Alright, boys, do you have any final thoughts for this film?
No.
For the end of our tale of Evangelion? Until Jackson picks the end of Evangelion?
I don't think I'm going to do that for quite some time, but I'll probably pick it eventually.
Tanner's picking the end of Evangelion this week.
Yeah, I think this movie was really fucking good. I think it was a really good send-off to the series. I think they wrap up everything very nicely. The best part about it, too, is that everything is super dense with, like, the lore. I think they do a good job explaining things enough to be interesting, but not, you know, too deeply to, like, kind of quell all the questions. But there's thought behind everything in this movie, I think. I don't think there's... Specifically with, like, all, like, the Eva lore and the impacts and all that shit. I think there's thought behind all of that stuff. I've obviously listened and read a bunch of stuff about it. But, yeah, I think they really do a proper send-off for all the characters. I really like Shinji's complete... overhaul of his character at the end, how he just turns into, a really good person. He kind of just, like, defies his dad in that way, how his dad was a fucking lonely loser all his life. And because I think it's really powerful just because they really play out the fact that Shinji is kind of like a replication of his father in the end. They're very similar people. Figuring, Shinji is kind of like some shut-in guy who doesn't really want to, like, talk to people. He's afraid of getting hurt. His dad was the exact same way, and that's kind of like the dynamic, is that Shinji's basically just his father. I'm a really big fan that Shinji basically does like a 180 of what his father did in the end. Overall I think it was really good. Also, I guess one last touch that I thought was really nice near the end, when Gendo's talking about attempting to find Yui, or he's just talking about Yui in general. The whole world's in like black and white. It looks like some like colorless shit, but when he like falls in love with Yui, that's when like his like whole world gets like colored and stuff. And the exact same thing happens when Shinji's on the beach and then Mari comes and sees him. It's like totally like black and white, and then she jumps into the water, and then the whole world's like filled with life. It's like a very good, obvious parallel to his father and Yui's relationship, which kind of came out of nowhere. Is how they described it. Yui just came up, and suddenly they're kind of like super close. That's kind of basically the exact same thing that happened with Yui and Mari. Anyways, rankings. I'm gonna kick this one off. I honestly think this is the best one of the series. I'm giving this one an S, easy S.
Solid, dude. I'm gonna be going up here next, and I thought this movie was pretty good. I don't know, it's not the best though, like it's a pretty good movie. I'm gonna give it an A-, I think.
I also thought this one was the best out of these Evangelions. I don't know, I'll say I appreciate Evangelion as a franchise more having watched these than I did before, so mission accomplished, I guess. I'm giving this one an A+, though.
An A+, okay. And then Dylan also ranked this movie this week. He gave it an S, and this actually pushes the movie to an S- this week. We got another S-tier movie here. And it's
I don't understand how Dylan isn't confused like me with these movies.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah, I think it's... the fucking second movie also got an S-. I didn't realize that. So yeah, I don't know if we are still wanting to do that, but Tanner, you mentioned at the end of the first movie that you wanted to like give like an overall ranking of the entire series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the first movie got an A, second movie got an S-, third movie got an A-, and the fourth movie got an S-. Where do we think that all like lands overall? At least for me, I think it's a solid like S-. I think overall it does a really good job. I think the art direction, acting, everything is super good throughout the entirety of it. It's really engaged throughout all of it, wanted to keep watching it. But there's definitely flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying S- for it.
I think series. Like A-, I'd say.
I'd probably go A if I'm looking at all four together.
There we go.
One problem is I think time skips are very difficult to pull off in stories. It works in this since it is two separate movies that it happens over. But if I were to try and look at this all as like one cohesive story, that probably becomes a problem for me.
I mean, anime does all the time, Tanner. They've practically perfected the formula at this point.
Sure.